Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's live where we are going to be diving in with Travis Thomas, who is another featured speaker at the Elite by Choice for Professionals event that we will be hosting here in Sacramento, June 23rd, 24th, and 25th. And so Travis, first of all, thank you so much for being here.
Lauren, come on, please. I mean, it's yes and. I mean, you asked me to do something, it's yes and. So thank you for having me.
Well, I have so much to talk about with Travis, and I cannot wait to dive in with him. But first, for those of you that are tuning in for the first time, this is a Get to Know the Speaker series where, again, I'm talking with every single one of our speakers at the Elite by Choice event that is going to be, again, hosted in June. And we're just going to get to know them a little bit better and give you a little taste of what it might be like in June. Again, it's going to be incredible. If that's something you're interested in, keep an eye out. I'm going to have a link here at the bottom where you can apply for your ticket today. But before I dive into Travis, I first have to tell everybody how I know him. So let's see here. I don't even know what year it is, but it was a while ago.
2013?
2013.
Yeah.
2013. Okay. I'm in grad school and I'm studying performance psychology, and I get this epic internship at IMG Academy, and it's in Florida. And I head down to Florida and I get to meet some of these incredible people that are going to be my mentors and I get to learn from. And what do you know? There's Travis Thomas, who is leading the leadership development department and is just like crushing it. And I immediately gravitated towards him. And even though we were in slightly different departments, how often was I in your department? Like I would come, I would sit and I would just take classes of yours. And it was incredible. So that's how I know Travis originally. And so he's seen my growth and development, man. I feel like that was so long ago, like from the very beginning when I was just like, a little tadpole. And like now where the growth, and I have a lot more to go, but you've seen it from the very beginning. And so I feel like, we go way back.
We do. It doesn't feel that long ago, but it has been. You're right. And it's been so exciting for me just to see you kick down the door and crush it ever since. And obviously you brought me in with the Yankees a few times, and I had a blast doing that, and love just everything that you're doing now. And I'm so excited and honored to be a part of the event.
Oh man, I'm so excited. Cannot wait. Well, for those of you that do not know Travis Thomas is the creator of Live Yes And. Now, if you don't know what this is, make sure you go check it out. It is a company dedicated to helping individuals, teams, and companies discover their brilliance by focusing on purpose, culture, and collaboration. And now, one of the coolest parts about Travis and the work that he does is that he also has I don't know how long of a stint you've had in improv, but he also does improv comedy, and a lot of his leadership tools and things and strategies and even mental performance stuff that you teach, not only the team you currently work for, but also teams like the Yankees when you came in with us, is that you teach leadership through application. So it's not just here's some principles, it's here are them, and here they are live, and you get to experience them right now. And so there are so many other incredible things that Travis does, but right now, he is currently working with the U.S. men's national soccer team. Holy cow. That is I want to hear all about this. And he's worked with incredible organizations, like I said, like the New York Yankees, Chicago Cubs, Miami Marlins, the Reds, the University of Georgia football, and again, does leadership dynamics with the USA men's soccer team and works with several companies and Fortune 500 companies as well. So again, thank you for being here, and I cannot wait to have you at the event. Did I miss anything?
Oh, that was super flattering. It's all good, Lauren. Thank you.
Awesome. Well, one of the things and some of the questions I've received, especially when in regards to the event, and there's no better person to answer some of these than you, is I would love to know, how do you currently work with teams? Be it the U.S. men's soccer team or any organizations that you work with, to help improve the culture and collaboration within their teams?
Yeah, I mean, so my current role, and obviously I'm wearing a USA tracksuit right now. I'm literally, leaving our chat today, and we have a game here tonight in a few hours. So it's outside of being a shameless plug, I am in uniform right now. So we do have a game. And so with like the USA team, I'm the leadership and team dynamics coach. And the great opportunity with the US team is I've been with them since January 2020, is that every time we come together as a team, I'm with them. And so it's the ability to create those relationships over time, which is so important working with organizations and working with sports teams. And I've been able to do that with the USA team. And when I've been able to work with different companies and being able to work with them over the span of time is where you really get to see that change and that transformation happen. Obviously, I do a lot of keynote addresses. I do a lot of workshops and things like that. But it really is when you're able to create relationships with organizations over time. I always hope that when I do a keynote or a workshop that it'll turn into longer term work. But I also know I can't control that either. But so yeah, I focus on really a lot of the mindset, the team dynamics, and the culture. And like you said, I don't know if people can see the gray beard is coming in, and I got the gray hair. I've been doing improv now, Lauren, for 20 plus years, 22, 23 years. When I got into improv comedy out of college and started performing professionally in Boston, and then started a group with two other guys down in Florida in 2004, and we're still putting together. But it was the experience of getting into improvisation and having grown up in sports and having working in the corporate world and being married and seeing all these how all of them sort of cross-pollinated. And I found that improv, the principles of improvisation, were kind of it was the hub of the wheel. And I saw the relevance in all of them. And as I got into this work, I was like, this is such a great tool. It's such a great tool for relationships, for teams, for mindset. And now the more and more I do it with high performers, is using improvisation as a mindfulness tool now as well. And so it's been a blast. It's always evolving because life is, and I'm just having a great time doing it.
I love that. And so for people that are not as familiar with improv comedy and this, the principle of live, yes, and could you kind of explain what that is and how that would apply, not only during improv, but then also how that applies outside of it to, teams and leaders?
Yeah, absolutely. And so the term yes and I didn't create. The term yes and is considered the basis of improvisation. So anyone who's ever done theater, or if you've ever done improv comedy, the first concept you learn is this concept of yes and. And so really all of improvisation, that's the foundation of which all improvisation is built off of. And what that means improvisationally is if you and I are performers, Lauren, and we're doing a show or we're doing a scene, you and I both know that as long as you and I both adhere to that idea of yes and, we're going to be able to tell a story. And what that means is I know that whatever you say to me, I'm going to say yes and to it. And you know that whatever you say or either way, whatever I say to you, whatever you say to me, we're both going to say yes and to each other's ideas. And what that means is the yes is if you look at me, and because again, it's improv, we have no idea what the other person's going to say, what the story's about, right? If you look at me and you say, oh my gosh, Travis, I'm so sorry you got fired. I'm going to say yes and. I'm going to say yes and I can't believe, right? I crashed the boat again, right? So you tell me I get fired. You know that I'm going to say yes, and I'm going to build off it. I'm going to give you an idea back and say yes. I can't believe that I crashed the boat, right? And all you're going to do now is you're going to yes and then
Yes,
say
and
yes, and you probably shouldn't work for a cruise line, right? I'm going to say yes and, right? And so we just tell the story one yes and at a time. And what the yes and is improvisation. The yes is acceptance and agreement. Whatever I say, you're going to accept it. Whatever you say, I'm going to accept it. So that immediately puts us on the same page, right? Boom, we're telling a story together. If you say, Travis, I can't believe you got fired again, and I say, no, I didn't get fired. Right now, it's like I didn't accept your idea, and so now it's like conflict because we couldn't agree upon what was real. Right. So in improvisation, it's all made up. So you're just agreeing on this is the reality, one yes and at a time. So yes is acceptance. The and is my response to it. It's how I build off of it. It's not good enough just to say yes. The and is, and I'm going to give you an idea back, which is yes, and I crashed the boat again. And your new yes and is yes, and the new information is you shouldn't work for the cruise line. Boom, 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 boom. So if you can do that, and everybody can, if you can say yes and you can improvise. So that is really all improvisation is built off of that really, really simple concept. Our good friend Justin Suey would say, simple but not easy.
Right.
But super simple but not easy. And so that's what I fell in love with when I got into improv. It's like, I'm like, this is powerful, right? This is a powerful, powerful concept. And then as I got into it more and more, I just realized, after I left IMG in 2015, and after I decided to go off and do my own, I really wanted to really kind of share this concept of yes and in a powerful way. And when it came to settling on a name, putting live in front of it, I was like, well, what have I been doing for the last 20 years? I'm like, my wife and I, like our family, we've been trying to live this concept of yes and what that means to live it is accepting everything that happens to you, not having to like it, but accepting it. And that's yes, right? So we just went through and are currently going through this pandemic. Yes, I don't have to like it, but I have to accept what is happening to me. So it's that yes, it's that acceptance. The and is, how do I choose to respond to it, right? What am I going to do with it? I don't have to like it, but I get to respond to it. Our friend Trevor Moad, who I know who that passed this past September, came up with the concept of neutral thinking, right? And so it's for me, it's a great tool to get neutral. And so for me, you cannot progress until you say yes. Yes is accepting what is, and that's it, with as little judgment as possible, right? This is what's happening, boom. And connecting my response to it to my authentic purpose. So as an organization, what's your purpose? Respond with that. As an individual, what's your authentic purpose? Have your response come from that, but we can't even get to that unless we start with the yes, which is acceptance. And so when I work with athletes or I work with high performers, right, it's how quickly can we accept what is happening and now respond to it? And that's what allows us to get through some of that adversity and that victim mindset more quickly, because we're problem solving. We're constantly problem solving and adapting to respond to the need of the moment, right? And that's what high performers do. And then if you grow it up, Lauren, to, well, what does that have to do with an organization? Imagine creating a team environment where everybody is yes-anding each other's ideas and supporting one another. And so when I look at great teams, healthy teams, or when I look at healthy relationships, right, I would, ask you, think about your relationship with your husband, right? Are you all, when you're at your best, you're probably yes-anding each other. And when things aren't, I've been married for 25 years now. When things aren't going great, there's not a lot of yes-anding going on. And it's because we're competing with one another, or we're not wanting to accept the other person's perspective as being valid. So there's a lot of knowing. Yes. So do I. And so when we can create these environments, where that yes and is kind of permeated into the culture, is where we have high levels of trust, respect, and value, which is that psychological safety component. So a lot of what I do is just helping organizations just notice where are the areas, whether it's communication or how we designed or how we function with one another, where maybe personality is getting in the way too often, and it's getting in the way of message, right? You and I know so often that it's the messenger is constantly killing the message, and because personality gets involved. And if we can, create environments where we're taking things less personally, because you and I have spent a lot of time, intentional time, developing that trust, respect, and value. And improv has just been a great tool in helping to develop that.
Well, and I can speak to this because I've not only have seen you do it multiple times, but you came and you did it when I was at the Yankees. And it was so valuable because one of the things that, like you just mentioned it, one of the things that can get in the way of the message is the personality, is the delivery, is the ego. I mean, that can really get in the way. I mean, and we're talking, sports organizations, if not just sports, any organization, but especially when there's a hierarchy, it's like sometimes we can get in the way of really delivering the right message and in the correct way where it gets received. Because really, at the end of the day, if it's not received, it doesn't matter what you say.
Yeah.
Where's the impact being had. And I love what you said. I love the yes and because and by the way, for those of you that don't know, he has an incredible book out. So I will make sure and I'll link it in the comments at the end of this, but it is so good and I highly, highly recommend it. It's called Live Yes and it's all about these principles. But one of the things that I love, and I talk about this a lot with mental performance, is that I say mental performance is often accepting your reality and choosing your response. Exactly
Yeah.
what you just said. It's so true because you don't have to like it. Like nobody loved the pandemic. Nobody loved shutting down. Nobody loved any of that. And we don't like that. But how do you respond? Because there are things that you don't have to like, but we have to understand we can't change. And a lot of times we waste time trying to
Yeah.
change the things that we can't. And we know that when we try and do that, those things end up controlling us. They control our emotions, they control our frustrations, they control our decision making, and it often becomes one of the biggest misuses of time. And when we're talking about teams, whether organizationally, sport, or otherwise, the last thing we need to be doing is wasting time when
Yeah.
we should be evolving and improving and adapting. And so I agree with you. I love that just that phrase. And I love what you said, which if you can say yes, and you can improvise. And
Yeah.
improvising, adapting, and being flexible, mentally flexible in any given situation is only going to help bounce back from whatever it is that you're experiencing.
Yes, and the reality is, if for anyone listening who's never even heard the concept of yes and before, and I'll do events and people are like, "Oh my gosh, we're so scared that we heard that we're gonna have to improvise," and I'll be like, "You improvise every day. You improvised your way to my talk today. You improvised yourself into the life that you are living. We just didn't call it improvise. We didn't call it improv, but that's what we're always doing. You wake up in the morning, you have an idea of how you think your day is going to go, and then you start living your day, and some things happen the way that you expected and most things don't. And so when things don't go according to script, you have to improvise. And so it's how well do it's not whether or not anyone watching are improvisers, it's how well do you improvise, because we're all doing it every day, every moment, all the time. And whether we know that we're consciously, again, so like, right. So thank you for referencing my book. There is another book called Live Yes And. I'm sorry. There is another book called Yes And, by the way, by Second City. Amazing book. My book's called Three Words for Getting Unstuck, Live Yes And. And I say all of that, not for a shameless plug, but because um, uh, it's okay to be upset with what's going on. Like you said, it's okay to not like what's going on. And so to kind of be like, no, this shouldn't be happening. Right? I remember the pandemic, literally, like, right, I mean, my career is built on speaking and traveling, and all of a sudden, none of that's happening. And I'm like, I don't like this. And like, but it's happening, right? This is what's happening. And as long as I sit there and cry and complain about it, I'm just stuck. And like, my feelings are totally valid, right? Like people are totally valid for feeling the hurt and the pain that they feel. But if we stay there, it just means we're stuck. And it's until we allow ourselves to accept it and now think about what am I going to do about it is when we actually start to kind of dig ourselves out of it. But so the yes and is not about invalidating anyone's feelings, anyone's situation, but it's recognizing. I do this all the time. I recognize, like, when I'm having a pity party for myself, I'm like, I need to have a pity party for myself. I need to like vent. And I also know while I'm doing that while I'm doing that, nothing better is going to happen until I finally accept it and now kind of click into, all right, and what's the next step forward?
I think what you just said was so important and such a good thing to mention, because I think sometimes this message can get lost in, like, you're not allowed to feel. You're not, like,
Totally.
if you're wrong for, if you're not yes anding immediately, like, you're wrong. And that's so not the point. So that's why I love that you
No.
brought this up, because there sometimes there is time for that. Like, I'll give you a really good example. I again, at my time at the Yankees, I was working with this pitcher who really struggled getting back from, getting essentially somebody hit a really nice home run off of him. And he really struggled to get
Yeah.
back. And what we realized is this happened anytime his performance didn't go according to plan. And it would take him around 4 innings to get back. And that was if he stayed in that long. And so our goal wasn't to go from 4 innings to none. It was to go from
Yeah.
4 to 3, then from three
Yeah.
to two,
Yep.
and continue trying to inch it back, recognizing that every once in a while it may take him 4 again. But the goal is to create, as using the law of averages, is to create an average baseline that was able to, cut off some time in between. And so I really like that, because I think that's it feels more human when we're talking about how we apply it. And it also
Mhm.
it's very realistic when we think about, like, hey, we are humans, we deal with emotions. Like, it's not to say your emotions are not valid, they are super valid, but
Yeah.
at some point we have to create a boundary and go, okay, now what are we going to do about it? Because that's where the true improvement actually occurs.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, perfectly said. It's so funny. So much of my childhood and then into my early, through college as an athlete and all that is I didn't recognize until after the fact of how much of a fixed mindset or a victim mindset I had about certain things. And it was because I was
Mm.
uncomfortable getting out of my comfort zone in certain ways. And I remember feeling like, oh, well, this coach, didn't treat me great or should have played me more, and this coach, whatever. And I remember, and I would have um, family members, friends, teammates say, "You're right, right? That's not fair. What's happening?" I go, "Yeah," because, and then I realized that someone validating my feelings was almost the worst thing that I can have, is because it gave me an excuse to be a victim. And it's like I talk about the pillow test, right? When you go to bed at night and you rest your head on the pillow, like, do you feel happy with or satisfied with the choices that you made that day? And when you're like, yeah, like, okay, we tend to fall asleep quicker. But we all know about when our head hits that pillow and all we're doing is replaying an event or replaying something that happened and we're just struggling with it. And that's when we know that, oh, I could have done something better. And I just I just remember thinking, like, ooh, sometimes the worst thing we can get is someone kind of like validating our that, because at the end of the day, even if someone says, yeah, you got screwed over, excuse my language, yeah, you got screwed over, okay, I'm still no closer to where I want to be. So if I can accept, like, oh, hey, this doesn't feel fair, yes, this doesn't feel fair, and what am I going to do about it, right? And so moving into that, it's not about whether things are fair or whether things are right. It's still, okay, this is what it is, and still, what are you going to do about it? And all of our feelings are completely valid in the process, right? I can feel mistreated and still continue to take steps forward to try to be proactive about it.
Oh my gosh, I love this, because I love this so much, because it's so true. And I think I've fallen into this myself. And it's a really good point that when people validate that, it gives you more of a reason to believe it. But one of the things that actually David Goggins talks about in his book, Can't Hurt Me, is the accountability mirror. And he goes, you
Yeah.
can't lie to yourself.
Yes.
Like,
Yeah.
you can pretend, but he goes,
Yeah.
you look in the mirror and you ask yourself a question, like, you know the answer to. You can't
Yeah.
lie. And so I think too, like, to your point with, like, the, putting your head on the pillow, you know the truth, and you know the
Yeah.
honesty piece of that. And so you can't lie to yourself. And to your point, there's no benefit to it. And even if, let's say, even
Yeah.
if it's 100% justified, the question is there benefit?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
oftentimes,
Yeah.
no, because sitting in the victim mentality, you're giving your power to somebody else. Because what that says is that in order for it to change, that person has to change.
Totally. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
we can't control that. We can only control our ability to change. So then it's like
Yeah.
flipping that script and going, okay, so yes, and what am I going to do about it? Now it puts you back in the driver's seat, and it allows you not to fall into that, victim mentality. So I think that's so important. So I have one more question for you about this, and it's, what do you see get in the way most of the time when people, like, when it comes to accepting their reality?
Yeah. I mean, I think it's just the fear of not being in control, and I can relate to it, right? All of us can relate to this idea of, I say this all the time, Lauren, with the whole yes and. the accepting what is, and I tell people all the time is you cannot control 100% of what happens to you. Right. And often people look at me like, you're not making me feel better right now. Right? But the reality is, none of us, no matter what I do, I still can't control 100% of what happens to me. Now, I have greater influence on what happens to me, but I don't control any of it. But so I'll say that you cannot control 100% of what happens to you, and we have 100% control of how we respond to it. Our response is completely in our control, not the outcome. Again, you and I know this. We're not controlling the outcome. We're not ever controlling the outcome, but I am always controlling my response, which is my attitude, my effort, right? My attitude, my effort, I can always control that. Can't control what decisions the coach makes, can't control the decision that the economy makes. I can't control all these different things. A pandemic, it's plopped in your lap. What do you mean? I've been doing everything right. I've been a good person. I've been doing everything right. And this still plops in my lap. Yes. Yes, it did. And you can't control that. But what are you going to do about it? I have control over that. So am I going to choose to be proactive, or am I going to choose to be a victim? Am I going to choose to be positive, or am I going to choose to be negative? Am I going to choose to have to get outside of my comfort zone and learn a new skill, or am I going to stay in my corner and say, this isn't right? I should still be able to have my job. And again, the pandemic is, again, a perfect excuse of, I'm a freelance worker. All of my work is 100% freelance. And all of a sudden I went from working a lot to working none. And so then it's like going, okay, well, what is possible? Well, there's this Zoom thing, and maybe I can do some work via Zoom. And there's a college course that's asking me to teach a virtual course. And no, I can do some virtual coaching. And so it's how quickly, again, we move into everything that happened to me. Yeah, like it stinks. It stinks. And we can still be proactive and respond from our authentic best at the same time.
Oof. Oh, this is so good. I could talk to you for another, hour.
We're gonna get to live. Yes.
I know it's gonna be so epic. So really quick, last question. What are you most looking forward to at the Elite by Choice event and coming to Sacramento and seeing all these incredible people?
Oh, I mean, that's the piece right there. It's the I don't like the word networking. It's the collaboration, right? It's getting, having everybody in the same room and just having these rich conversations and interactions. Like so often, Lauren, like so often my work is like I fly in for something, jump up on stage, do my thing, and then it's like I have to leave. And I'm just like, I love just kind of just being there and seeping in and being able to stay around and collaborate with the other presenters and collaborate with all the attendees. And I'm a big fan of tapping into the collective genius in the room. This is something, especially when I do my corporate work, I say so often when we're a part of teams and organizations, we try to convince everyone else in the room that we're the smartest. And a yes and principle is your job as an improviser is to make other people look brilliant. And so if we were always trying to tap into the collective genius of the group and sort of pulling the genius out of everybody in a collaborative way, that's how awesome, teams and awesome cultures and organizations happen. And this event, that's what I'm excited about, is to get all that genius in one room and see what we can create together.
Oh my gosh, I love it. It is so true. And that's really why I've handpicked every speaker that I have, including you, because I know that that's going to happen within this group. And that's what we do. Is that's slightly different at the Elite by Choice event, is the speakers don't just come in and leave. They stick around. They are a part of the other speaker sessions as well. And so you may be sitting next to one of them and collaborating with them on one of the breakout sessions. And it just makes for really good relationships. And my good friend, Nick Cavuto, who's going to be there, he always says that relationships are rocket ships. And so we really create that environment where you can develop those relationships that last beyond the event. But at the same time, you get your burning questions answered right then and there from the source, and have the power of the collective group that we are in. So again, I'm so jazzed for this. It's going to be so much fun. If you are interested in joining us, tickets are by application only, and you can apply for your ticket to join us at laurenjohnsonandco.com/EBC. I hope to see you there. Come and join Travis and I and the other incredible speakers. Travis, thank you again so much for being here, and we'll see you in June.
Thanks, Lauren. I can't wait.
All righty. Take care, everyone.